The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by BASF Canada and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
Ustros here with RealAgriculture.com. I am back here today with another Canola School episode, and I am in the field here today with Autumn Barnes, who's an agronomy specialist with the Canola Council of Canada. How is it going today?
It is going okay. We have moisture, so that's positive.
Absolutely. Now, the moisture is good, but not unwelcomed. However, some cold came with it. Across the prairies, there was some colder temperatures. So we're now starting to look at these canola plants that are just coming out of the ground and what sort of impacts does frost have on them. Do you want to talk a bit about that?
Yeah, so I guess the first thing with frost is let's all just pump our brakes and try not to freak out about it. There were some areas that hit -3, -4, which can damage canola seedlings, but it's going to take a while for us to truly be able to assess that damage. So I think, today is Friday the 21st. So there were a couple cold nights that we just had. So let's wait till next week to take a look at things. If there are some fields that got hit pretty hard that you do want to keep an eye on specific plants, you want to maybe make some guesses on what plants are going to live or die. You can either put pin flags next to them or put big washers over them so you can come back to those specific plants. But yeah, I mean, -3, -4 is not a pleasant temperature for canola, but that said, it is a really hardy plant, and sometimes, so that frost is going to cause or can cause some of the leaf tissue to sort of desiccate. It'll wilt and desiccate and dry off, and the stem will look pinched, and sometimes if you give that plant time, it'll actually push some new growth out. So the big thing with frost is just waiting, giving the crop time to push out new growth, and then not being hasty to rush into any reseeding decisions.
So if you're looking out in your field, is there a certain leaf stage or plant growth stage that you're kind of looking at that it will grow through, and before that it might not?
Yeah, I mean, if I guess like a frost at different times in the season is going to have a different effect, but most of the canola across the prairies would be just poking out of the ground, or like this field we're in now is cotyledons with mostly one leaf to cotyledon stage. So if this field had gotten hit by frost, they only got to about -1. Yeah, I think it's at the end of the day, like if it were one leaf, if it were two leaf, or if it were just poking out of the ground, really ideally, the plants wouldn't have emerged yet and you could have just escaped the cold. But I mean, luckily there were a lot of areas, at least in southern Alberta, that had that -4, that had about 6 inches of snow when that -4 happened. So it kind of depends. Frost is a really hard issue to predict. It's a hard issue to, to kind of make some guesses on emergence and what's going to survive. So
now, is there any numbers when it comes to percentages if you're walking through your field and, you're waiting that week and you're walking through the field and you're going, ooh, it looks like there is not a lot that survived. Is there any sort of rule of thumb you guys have when it comes to reseeding?
Yeah, so usually 1 or 2 plants per square foot can be enough to get that crop to harvest. Is it going to yield as nicely as a stand that's 5 to 8? Probably not. But that 1 to 2 plants per square foot, it can be enough to scrounge out some yield, and it can economically beat a reseed decision. So that's kind of what we're looking at. I mean, unfortunately, frost doesn't always affect, every part of the field uniformly. It'll tend to sort of move like water, right, and pool in the lower spots. And so you really have to kind of get an idea. You might have an area where there's, big dead patches, lower spots, things like that. And you might have to manage those a little differently than the rest of the field. As far as like it taking out a percentage of the plants, I mean, that's good information to note and to understand. But as far as, if 50% of your plants die or something like that, it really depends on how many you started with in the first place.
And is there a window, like you said, pump the brakes? It's really important to just kind of wait right now. But is there a window like up to, 7 days or whatever that you won't see anything after that? Like that's as worse as it gets sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, usually after 10 days, you're probably like, you're not going to get worse. worse. But really in that 5 to 10 days is where you're going to start making some decisions or start looking and seeing. That's where you're going to get a lot of the desiccation. But sometimes, when those plants are stressed and have a lot of leaf tissue that have died, it takes longer for them to start growing. So it's really an exercise in patience. Another important thing with frost is put the sprayer away for a while. If there's no actively growing plant tissue, the crop should not be sprayed. So that's another consideration as well.
Okay, awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I don't think so. Just hopefully we're done with frost for the year, and grateful that it came with moisture in so many places.
Absolutely. Thanks, Autumn.
You bet.